In this video, we will show you how to replace your front outside door handle on this GMC Acadia. This will be mounted to your door. Let's get into it. A quick note before we start taking anything apart, have your window in the upright position. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. To be able to remove the outside door handle, you have to remove the inside door panel. Let's start removing the door panel, focusing behind the inside door handle. Looking directly behind here, you're going to find a small plastic panel that you can use an angled pick, carefully remove, and behind there's going to be a mounting screw. A quick inspection of that plastic panel, we'll set it aside. To remove the mounting screw, we'll be using a T20 Torx bit. It's essentially shaped like a star. A quick inspection of the mounting hardware as we continue. We'll be replacing things as necessary. Let's continue down inside the grab handle. In this area, you're going to find another one of those protective covers. We'll continue with our angled pick. That slides out of place. Just beneath it, you're going to find two T20 Torx screws. We'll remove the pair of those. We've removed all the hardware. Next, it's going to be time to start removing the door panel from the door by gently prying with a plastic trim tool. But before we start doing any of that, it's important to mention a couple things. You're going to have a cable that leads to the inside door handle that we will have to deattach from the back side of the door panel. Other than that, you're also going to have several electrical connectors that you want to pay attention to. With that said, let's continue on with our plastic trim tool. To start prying this off of here, we're going to start down along the bottom of the door panel. As you make your way down under this area, you're going to find a small lip that you could carefully get in between with your plastic trim tool. It's a good idea to use plastic because you don't want to scratch the paint on the door. Start prying this out of place. Now we can start lifting up on this and we'll be paying attention for the cable and the wiring harness. For the cable, if you were to pay attention to it along the top, you're going to find a locking tab. Squeeze that in and we'll pull that straight rearward. It should slide out of place. As we slide it out of place, you want to bring it through the slot here, and now we're going to pull the cable up and out. On this vehicle, you're going to find that you have one large electrical connector, which essentially takes care of all of the electrical connectors that you would normally have to remove. To disconnect this, we're looking for the red locking tab right here. You want to go ahead and pull this out of place, and then we should be able to dislodge this by pulling on this white lever. There we are. A quick inspection of both ends here. Set your door panel aside. With that out of the way, we're going to start carefully removing a portion of this panel. Now, we don't have to fully remove it, we just have to be able to pull it far enough away in this corner that we could carefully make our way up inside to gain access to a wiring harness. As we pull this away, you can see that there's a lot of adhesive that makes its way around. This is typically very sticky, and you don't want to get it on your clothing, or even worse, on your skin. It can start pulling out some of your hairs. Now, looking behind this area, we can easily see the electrical connector that we're going to disconnect. Before we can go ahead and disconnect this, you're going to find you have a red locking tab. We'll carefully slide this out of place, squeeze on this tab right along the back side, and we should be able to pull this apart. To dislodge this, you can use a pick, a small screwdriver, whatever you need to. We'll just press it right away. Continuing on, you have that locking tab that I mentioned down at the far end here. We're just going to go ahead and squeeze that in. A quick inspection of both ends. This looks good. Let's make our way out here. You can see the door latch. We'll be focusing just right along this area. There's a small plastic cover. Pop that out of place. A quick inspection, you will be reusing it. Now deep inside this area, you're going to find a T20 torque screw that we're going to have to remove. As we start removing the screw, you want to be extremely careful that it does not fall inside the door. If it does, typically you can just reach inside, either by hand or even using a magnet, and go ahead and try to draw it out of there. Try to take hold of that with my magnet here. Quick inspection, set it aside. With that out of the way, let's make our way to the outside of the door and we can start removing the handle. To be able to remove the handle, we have to go ahead and remove this portion. And to do that, go ahead and lightly tug on the handle, take hold of this portion, slide it out of place. The reason why we had to tug on the handle is because of this lip here. A quick inspection of that and we'll set it aside. Continuing from there, we can take hold of that handle again. We're going to give it a light tug and we're going to slide it what would be rearward. Once it breaks free, we'll continue rolling it out of position, starting from the back side here and then continuing with the forward side and removing the wiring harness. Could hear that unlock. We're rolling the front out and removing that wiring harness. There it is, friend. With the handle out of place, the next thing we want to do is clean and inspect the mounting point on the door. Obviously, be extremely careful not to cause any damage to your paint. We're just going to give everything a quick wipe here and a close inspection. Make sure nothing's rotted or damaged. With that area cleaned, let's talk about one thing. Before we install the brand new door handle, you're going to want to take a peek inside this area. The rear of the door handle will have to fit into a small clip that's located inside of here. To be able to get it to fit in, you're going to have a small angled pick or reach inside the door and press on it. But essentially what I'm going to do is use this angled pick, make my way in, grab onto it, and pull it towards what would be the outboard side of the door, right where I'm standing. You can see it moving in there. Once you're holding pressure on that, you would continue on with rolling the backside in. Now that you've seen what's about to happen, let's go ahead and install our brand new outside door handle. Now we can install our outside door handle. We'll be starting with the forward side. Take that wiring harness, slide it through. Now we'll swing this in. Continuing from here, we're going to have to grab onto that internal hooked area and bring it right around this. I'll be doing that with an angled pick. Can grab that right in there. Pull a little bit. The hardest part's just getting your pick in there and the handle itself, pulling on everything and bringing it into the proper position. Once you feel as though you have it in the proper position, before we continue on with this outer aspect to lock it in, we want to make sure that we test this by tugging on it and making sure that it does retract back towards the door. If you tug and it does not retract back towards the door, it's not seated properly. You need to continue until it functions properly. Now we can install the outer portion here. Before you do so, let's have a quick look. We have our mounting bolt hole. You want to make sure you have a bolt that fits in that. Aside from that, we have this hooked area. We're going to pull on the handle a little bit. We'll slide this right into place. While holding that, you can push the handle back in, and we'll make our way to the mounting screw port. I've got my mounting bolts. I'm using an 8mm socket. Let's go ahead and start this in by hand. Let's tighten this. Okay, right there is where it wants to bottom out. We'll just take it a tiny bit further. We don't want to over-tighten this and cause any damage. Take hold of this, give it a wiggle, make sure it's properly secured. We'll continue on with our plug. With that plug installed, the next thing we need to do is test the door handle functionality. This is going to be fairly simple. We want to use a 1/4 inch extension, make our way inside the door latch, being extremely careful not to cause any damage to any paint. We'll pull that towards the outboard side. At this point, the door thinks that it's shut, and the striker is stuck in place, so the door won't open. I'm going to continue on by putting pressure on this, and now I'll pull on the door handle. With the door in the unlocked position, this should release. Let's test it one more time here real quick. I'm applying pressure. As you can tell, it does release as it should. We can continue on from here. Now we can make our way inside the door. We're going to reattach our electrical connector. Just want to carefully press that in. We're going to listen for a click. Once you've heard that click, you want to press in the red lock here, and we'll give it a tug to make sure it's properly secured together. We'll press this into the original positioning here. Double check to make sure it's sealed all the way around. It's time to prepare to install our door panel. Before we do so, let's have a quick look along the back side. We have to remove the window seal that makes its way across the top of the door panel. To do this, it's fairly simple. Using a metallic trim tool, we want to carefully try to find the metal clips that are on here, and typically you just make your way right underneath them, in between the door panel, and pry it out of place. There's one. We'll continue down the line. There's another one. That's what they look like right there. We will be reusing these. There's one. Should have one more down here. Let's collect all of those clips and we'll install them in the door. If you were to look along this portion of the door, right next to your window, you're going to find that you have 5 slots. We're going to have to install these clips into each one of those slots. When installing these, we'll just slide them right down into place. They should slide right in fairly easily. We'll continue on down the line with all 5 of these. Now it's time for our window seal. When we install this, I'm going to come down in the front first. We'll just slide it right underneath this corner piece. Now while pressing it against the window, we're going to start pressing it down onto each one of the clips. The clip should be on the outboard side here. I can grab onto it with my finger. Do the same thing all the way down the line, pressing it down as we continue. Double check, make sure that's completely seated all the way down. Now it's time for that door panel. We'll start with our electrical connector. Get this aligned, press it in. As you're pressing it, you're going to find that this lever wants to pivot for you. We'll press it in, make sure it's locked together, and then squeeze in that locking tab. If you don't squeeze that in, there's the possibility this could open up on you while you're driving down the road. You definitely don't want that. Continuing from here, we're going to bring it a little closer, and it's time for our inside door handle cable. To install the cable, we'll take the far end, slide it right down into that handle. Now we're going to carefully tug on this. That gives us some slack. We'll bring it through this groove and then lock it in right along here. Get it aligned, press it in, listen for a click, give it a wiggle and a tug. Make sure it's properly secured. Let's start getting the door panel in place. As we do so, we need to pay attention to our lock knob, make sure it comes through the lock port. Now at this point, we're going to start aligning all the mounting points, making their way around the door panel. Once we have them aligned, we can continue on by pressing this in. Let's give this a light tap. Make our way all the way around. Now all the way along the top, we do have those clips that we had removed. We need to make sure we're locked in. Take hold of the door panel. We're going to give it a light wiggle to make sure it's completely secured all the way around. After that, continue on with your mounting screws. We'll start with the 2 screws inside the grab handle. Start them in by hand. We want to be sure we're not cross-threading anything. After that, go ahead and snug them up. Let's protect this area with its cover. Slide that right down into place. Now we can make our way up and behind the inside door handle. We have our protective cover. At this point, the inside door panel is completely installed. The last thing we need to do is test the functionality. Let's test the functionality of our outside door handle one more time. We're making sure that the door is in the unlocked position. Go ahead and close the door. Let's give it a tug. Perfect. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.